Hi, and welcome to Spin Cycle 3. Now, very shortly, I'm going to show you a date, and I want you to remember that date because it's going to provide the context for what is to follow after that point. You will recall that approximately a week ago, there were a few headlines, not a lot, alluding to Prince Harry as the Prince of Hearts. Now, of course, that seems strangely familiar to a lot of people because it harks back to his mother's wish to be the Queen of Hearts, which she expressed in that dreadful Bashir interview that she was manipulated into. And I thought, yes, that's why it feels familiar, and I sort of dismissed it. But then I realised that no, I am familiar with that term, and it goes a lot further back. It actually goes all the way back to 2002. And I think that's why a lot of people think that the palace might be behind this latest PR push on behalf of Harry. I don't believe they are. Since I discovered this little tidbit of information, I realised that whoever's doing his PR at this point is merely following a blueprint that has served him well over many, many years, a blueprint that has actually served him well over 22 years. So let's have a look at this date, shall we? 9th of September 2002. And it's significant because the Daily Mail headline for that day was this: "I want to be a Prince of Hearts," says Harry. Now, I've detected a bit of a pattern when it comes to Has, and it's very evident if you want to check it out in his memoir, Spare. When I was reviewing his book, I sort of paid a lot of attention to this. Now, the ghostwriter would be obliged to tell tales that Harry had conveyed to him, and often those tales would present Harry in quite a poor light. He would come across as inconsiderate at best and just a downright mean bully at worst. And then in the next paragraph, the ghostwriter would try to repair this reputational damage by basically putting in the mummy card, the sympathy card. And he would go to extraordinary lengths to manage to do this. Sometimes he would even have Harry talking to the ghost of his mother or thinking that his mother had come back to him as a tiger. Now let's have a look at the spin of this article back in 2002. This is what was said. His image is that of a playboy prince indulging in underage drinking and drug taking, and with his 18th birthday looming on Sunday, Prince Harry has decided it's time to mend his ways. Hence the headline, harking back to his mother, Prince of Hearts, harking back to the Queen of Hearts, because Harry was really trying to mend his reputation. All the Palisades were helping him all they can, and it was one hell of a reputation to fix. Now, of course, the News of the World and other awful tabloids took great delight in picking on Harry, reporting every little step that he took wrong. The trouble was, he did take a lot of steps that were wrong. Of course, he was also known for his underage and prolific drug taking, and he recounts a lot of that in Spare. He was definitely a wayward teen. Very much so. He needed to be reined in a lot earlier than he was. So what the tabloids and the newspapers were doing were basically reporting on this. Now, Harry's defense of that is, well, isn't every teen like that? Well, actually, no, Harry, they're not. And particularly ones with as much privilege and support as you enjoyed, definitely not. So he was, a bit of a rascal if we're being kind, and a little bugger if we're being truthful. So we'll just bring that up because I want you to take note of that very last sentence. Prince Harry has decided it is time to mend his ways. Now, at the time, he had failed 3 of his A-levels in art, history of art, and geography. Now, they were not considered difficult exams by his teachers at Eton, and he was extremely shocked by the outcome. Now, I've looked up that A/S. Now, the A/S is levels that are not for the academics of Eton. They're the easier levels to take. Really, no one fails these levels. They're finessed, they are helped to pass. They are enabled to get through. And we all know about Harry's art exam controversy as well, and his art project. We all know, so I won't go over old ground. I do have a video on that if you want to check it out. But the point is, these easier A-levels anyone should have passed. And there we are, Prince Harry saying, reported by a source in the palace, that he was genuinely shocked that he failed. Well, that's what happens when you don't put any work in, Harry. Next one. He wants to follow in his mother's footsteps by becoming a Prince of Hearts. Then they go back to Diana. Diana confessed that she yearned to be known as the Queen of Hearts, comforting the sick and the destitute and the dying. Now, according to an aide to Prince Charles, so they were helping him out, her younger son has declared, "I want to do something that evokes memories of Mummy's charity work." So even back then, Prince Harry was dragging up his mother and using her reputation, using the fond memories that people had of her to cover up for his many failings. And he had many failings. And most 18-year-olds that misbehave to that degree don't get a chance to contact a tabloid newspaper, don't get the chance to have an aide to their then Prince Charles, backing him up and giving really delightful quotes about the connection between his mother and Harry, the Prince of Hearts. But there's more. A lot of people look at Prince William and compare him in looks to his mother, but in reality, it is Harry who is more like his mother in many ways. That theme of being better than William, being more like his mother, being the Prince of Hearts, putting William down, dragging up his mother, making it all very uncomfortable for everybody in the palace, it started before his 18th birthday, 2002. This man baby, has had 22 years trading off the memory of his mother. I think it's about time, Harry, that you spend a couple of years not mentioning your mother and seeing just how far you get. Because you use her legacy, you trade off her legacy, you trade off her reputation every time you attempt a rebrand. And in the process of doing so, you have just decimated her reputation. People associate now Diana, Princess of Wales, with the very worst of you. And I don't think that's very fair, do you? You shall say the prince is full of remorse and embarrassment over his past misbehaviour and is eager to make amends. Harry is always eager to make amends when something goes pear-shaped. When everything is going his way, he's defiant, he's arrogant. He doesn't think there's anything to fix about himself. But when he's called out, when the tabloids call him out, when social media call him out, when he's embarrassed, like for the Pat Tillman Awards, he always harks back and hides behind his mummy's skirts. Even in the Pat Tillman acceptance speech, he hid behind his mother's skirts and also other veterans on the stage who he wouldn't let leave the stage. He's always hiding behind the good reputation of others to finesse his own. Now I'm going to fast forward to an article that was in the Courier Mail, which is an Australian newspaper, a Murdoch paper, just a few days ago. And you can see how he's just harking back to the same PR that worked for him before his 18th birthday. And here we have it. Desperate, Prince Harry's serious about repairing image. Well, here's an idea, Haz. Why don't you just live your life so that you don't have to keep repairing your image? I mean, you're 40 now. It's possible. And stop trying to live your life perfectly only in front of the cameras, because then you won't suffer reputational damage. If you go out of your way to live your life in a good way out of the camera, out of the public eye, it will spill over eventually. Over a period of about 5 years, people might even believe that you have some positive attributes. Brutal, I know, but if you can track someone trying to mend their reputation over a 22-year period, it might be time to grow up. It might be time to put the real work in and achieve real things. Harry does everything in flurries, and he does that to mend his reputation. So the recent flurry of charity activity, he hopes to get enough photo ops and stuff to live off that for the rest of the year. Invictus is another flurry opportunity. Well Child is a flurry opportunity. And I don't really think he gives a toss after the photo ops are over. He just goes back to his old life. He just goes back to what he wants to do. And I think that life he doesn't really achieve much. Okay, next bit of spin that has dominated over the last week is again Meghan Markle's dropping a shameless hint on her memoir and the book speculation amping up once more. Now, I'm going to be talking to Andrew Loney about this near the end of this month because, of course, he is a renowned literary agent. I mean, he's the best one in the UK. So if anyone's going to know the inside track on this and possibly how much money she would receive for said memoir, all the sort of background, knowledgeable, professional information, he would know it. And I'm going to ask him a lot of questions about that. And I'll be very interested in his opinion about it as well. But the reason why this interests me is the implicit threat rising again. Now, we all know back in the Cut interview that Meghan made really, well, allegedly, another threat against the royal family because she said she claimed she found her journal in the sock drawer bracket, Frogmore Cottage. And she also said in that interview that she had a lot to say till she didn't have a lot to say anymore. So, you know, the implication was clear. And also aides were very aware prior to the Oprah Winfrey interview that that was dangling over the royal family's heads for a long time before that interview was actually aired. They dangled it over the royal family. And the reason why they dangled it over them over that year where the Queen was giving them a year to change their minds, the Queen had not taken anything away permanently. She was waiting for them to maybe decide their future path in a sort of reasoned manner. She was waiting for all the high emotion to die down, and she was confident that they would think about it logically and carefully. But they didn't. They didn't. It's hard to think logically and carefully when you've got a permanent cold. However, that's the pattern. That's their MO. They hold things over the royal family trying to get what they want. In that case, they were trying to hold on to their security. They were trying to hold on to numerous titles, military titles, things like that. They wanted the half in, half out, let's face it. And so they were holding this tell-all interview over the royal family. But Our Majesty, the late Queen, of course, did not blink. She does not respond to blackmail. And the royal family now, the current King Charles III, will not blink. He will not waver when it comes to blackmail. Really, the attitude, I would say, in the palace would be publish and be damned. 2 years on from releasing Spare, speculation is rife that Meghan could follow with her own book. Those in the publishing world believe she could be offered millions to officially tell her side of the story. Now, this is the interesting part of this article to me, that she heavily hinted she might write a book in the future after she delivered a thinly veiled threat in a highly controversial interview days before the late Queen's death. Now, this is different. This is actually different, that now numerous media outlets are actually calling out these implicit threats. They're actually drawing attention to them. There's more of this negative Meghan Markle publicity. Now, prior to now, they would mention the book. They would mention that the royal family must be concerned. They would mention that it's going to get millions. But they would never mention the implicit threat. And that is a new development. Final little bit on this. Meghan Markle deliberately delays release of tens of millions tell-all memoir for one crucial reason. And that they claim that the one crucial reason is that she wants to keep the peace. No, she wants to keep the leverage. Because once she releases that, the most she could get would be the same as Harry's deal. So, well, it's claimed that he got $20 million. I doubt whether he got a $20 million advance. I'm really not sure. Probably more in the region of 10. And then after tax, I don't know. What would he have left? About 7. But, you know, these figures are always inflated because they're trying to create buzz. They're trying to get interest. And I know a lot of people would just see through this memoir and have have no interest in it. So I doubt the sales. There'll be a flurry of sales because people are attracted to the negative. Then they'll want to see what she has to say. But so much of the juice will be leaked in the first few days that the sales will slow very quickly, I would imagine. So I doubt whether any publisher will actually be able to recoup their advance if it's a large advance. But like I said, I'll ask Andrew Loney about that because he knows all the facts of that industry. But it's laughable that she's holding off on publication to keep the peace. She's holding off, in my opinion, publication because she needs that leverage. Her only chance of a really big payday one day, a settlement payday, is to have that to hang over their head. She's hoping, she hasn't realised that every other time she's done this, it hasn't worked. No one has succumbed to her bullying. No one has succumbed to her threats, certainly not the royal family. But she's still hoping for that multi-million-dollar payday. She's hoping to niggle and threaten and worry them enough that some lawyer will pop out from the palace and offer her the regions of $50 million to shut up, go away, sign an NDA, and never mention the words palace, royal, grey men, anything, any of those words that she could mention, the Queen, anybody, the current King, Catherine, the Princess of Wales, William, the Prince of Wales, they would round it up pretty tightly. I would imagine that they would have the best lawyers in the world to be able to wrap this all up. It'll be tight if it's ever done. But that's what she's hoping for. And again, I don't think the palace will ever give her a multi-million-dollar settlement because they don't succumb to blackmail and they don't succumb to threats. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this will play out because really this is the only ace she has up her sleeve. And once she plays it, she's got nothing left. I'm of the opinion that the draft of Meghan's memoir is already written. I think it was written around the time of Harry's spare because that would be the only way that I can explain large chunks of timeline missing from Harry's spare. Now, a lot of people have speculated that's because he wants to write a second book. No, I think space was left for Meghan to write about those parts of the timeline in her book. And there's huge parts of the timeline. And you know the parts that are missing in Harry's? All the parts where, as a couple, they spent time with the Prince and Princess of Wales. And I think has probably left that up to Megsy baby to do her very worst. Now, that is, of course, all speculation. You must do your own research and form your own opinion. I'm not alleging that anything I have just said is fact. It is based on opinion and it is based on the observation of what I've just read. I've got to say that for legal purposes. And it's also very important because it's true. Opinion is not fact. But I know my audience is discerning and intelligent enough to pick that up. What else has been on the horizon? Harry isn't doing very well. Justice Fancourt is so irritable, so angry about Harry and his legal team wasting the court's time. Also, he wasn't that impressed with the Sun either. So Prince Harry's claims he was bugged and tracking devices were planted to monitor him are thrown out as the judge warns Duke of the overuse of the court's time. It was an extraordinary statement by Justice Fancourt. Extraordinary. And you could tell that he was just so frustrated with all the important cases being delayed that need to be heard in this day and age. It's just so frustrating that this tired old story is taking up the court's time. And isn't it extraordinary that Harry is being represented seemingly by a legal team that can't tell the difference between things that are a waste of the court's time and things that are a valid objection to make, asking for amendments to the agenda, asking for things to be included when the case is actually heard. You would think a really responsible legal team would be able to tell the difference between valid points raised and points that are going to be thrown out as soon as the justice actually views them. But apparently not, which is very sad for Harry's bank balance. Prince Harry claims that bugging and tracking devices were planted by the Sun to monitor him have been thrown out by the High Court judge. They sure have. And Mr. Justice Fancourt warned that the trial in January must either go ahead or be settled out of court and would not be delayed any further than it already has been. Now, of course, Harry's ego would take an enormous bruising if there was any settlement out of court. He has had such a go at his brother, Prince William, for doing just that, even though Prince William donated that settlement to Invictus. Well, anyway, we won't go into that. That's another video I've already made. But Prince William knew that as soon as Leveson 2 didn't go ahead, that it was over, that the powers that be that needed to be protected were being protected. Nothing would come from pursuing this. Life is not fair. We all know life is not fair. Prince William is a realist. He thought, well, I'll make them pay and I'll make it hurt. And he did make them pay and he did make it hurt. It was a sizable settlement. And as soon as he got it, he put it to good use to help others. Now, Harry could have done the same thing, but he was only offered about £100,000 and his ego couldn't stand it because in his mind, his suffering is probably worth double William and Catherine's, even though he received a tenth of their harassment and their phone hacking. So it's all about ego. It's all about proving a point. But like I said, once Leveson 2 didn't go ahead, the decision had been made. And so he really just needs to move on with his life. Now, Jennie Bond has been at it. Royal expert. Now, that is questionable. Says Princess Diana would have giggled with delight at Prince Harry's choice to fight back against the palace. That is a finessing of history because Harry and Meghan have never fought back really against the grey men. Jennie Bond's sort of point in that ludicrous article was the fact that Diana was really mainly fighting against the grey men when she did her Bashir article and that she didn't overly slam the palace or the royal family themselves. She really did focus on the grey men, and she did. But Harry and Meghan haven't. The Oprah Winfrey interview was all about their racist relatives. It was all about members of the family doing them wrong. And it was all about, Prince Charles, then Prince Charles, wanting to economise and not willing to fund Meghan. And also about the fact that Archie hadn't received his title, which of course he wasn't going to receive until after the Queen died. But let's not get facts get in the way of a good story. So all those inaccurate, allegations made in the Oprah Winfrey interview, and there were many, as you know, they were against the family. They weren't against the grey men. Now, in Harry's book, he did have a go at a few courtiers, but really the focus was on how he'd been done wrong by his father and his brother, particularly his brother. So Jennie Bond is really rewriting history there. Harry's attack has never been about attacking anonymous, faceless courtiers. Harry's attack has always been about getting back at his family. This was the claim. The late Princess of Wales certainly wasn't one to stick to royal convention herself, and Bond added that Diana probably would have giggled with delight at some of the barbs he had fired at palace courtiers. Well, I doubt that, because one thing that Princess Diana always wanted was Prince William's path to be king to be a smooth one. She wanted him to become king. She believed in the monarchy. Now, she didn't help that path. She created a lot of angst, hurt, and drama in the last years of her life, as we know. And we all know that she became a little bit unravelled in those last years of her life, particularly once the palace machinery was removed from her. She felt very much out on her own. And of course, there's faults on both sides. Of course there are. But it had the effect of making Prince William's path to the throne definitely rocky. And we all know the effect it had on King Charles III's path to the throne. He still has to sort of suffer barbs and accusations and the dragging up of history about all that now. So it definitely had an impact. But the fact to put words in her mouth that she would have giggled at Prince Harry's antics, I think it was really beyond the pale. I think Jennie Bond was really out of line there. And I don't think she did Princess Diana's legacy any favours. Now, there's a bit of juicy news that has cropped up this week, and it is Simon Case, no less, who Harry referred to in his memoir as the Fly. Prince Harry's bitter hatred of usurper Simon Case, who did William's bidding. Well, of course, he had to do William's bidding because he worked for William, but, royal family live. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle reeling as pot of gold spells disaster. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle could be headed for disaster after speculation grows that a former royal private secretary could write a memoir about them. My, how the tables do turn. And if Simon Case wants to write a memoir about Harry and Meghan's time at the palace, I am here for it. I am here for it with bells on. I will be buying multiple copies. I might buy a copy for each shelf on my bookshelf behind me because it will be delightful. And I have a feeling that it will also be very truthful. I think it will reveal a lot. And I think we might find out a lot more about those allegations of bullying, don't you? Now, we heard about Ashley Hansen, of course, launching her new business, and Meghan and Harry are going to be clients. Well, one thing that really interested me about this was the name, Three Gate Strategies. Now, as soon as I heard that name, I thought, oh my goodness, Meghan Markle actually helped to make up the name. Turns out, yeah, she did. That word salady name. Now, this is about the name. Three Gate draws its name from a proverb often attributed to Rumi. Now, it's all about the fact that the words pass through three gates before speaking. And the three gates are, is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? Hansen said that Meghan helped her brainstorm a name for the company. Oh dear, Ashley Hansen, that was your first mistake. Now, the interesting thing that Hansen's new venture is also part of Meghan's growing portfolio, which also includes Sesta Collective, haven't heard anything more about that for a while, and the beverage brand Clever, which we haven't heard much about that either. So it's part of her growing business portfolio, hey? So Ashley Hansen's gone out on her own, and Meghan's an investor, which would mean that she would still have to keep Meghan sweet, would still have to do Meghan's bidding, but Meghan's looking to profit off Ashley Hansen's work. So basically she would work for Meghan for free. Now we're going to finish off with the Duchess's last appearance for the LA Children's Hospital Gala. It was a surprise appearance, and she was, of course, wearing that Carolina Herrera red gown that she wore way back with Harry, and it's got those really weird darts right on the boobies there. And I did see a very funny comment. I'm not going to really have a go about, her looks, but I must say, I think she looked her best in 2015, just before she met Harry. If you go back and look at photographs, I think she looked fantastic. And I think it was before she had any major work done. And I think a lot of LA people, I think it's a uniquely LA thing, they really destroy their faces as they get older with getting way too much work done. I prefer the European model of just aging gracefully. I mean, of course, you can do a few slight little beauty things to try and make yourself look better if you want to. But European women, they look their age, but they look beautiful. It is particularly French women, because they really care for their skin. They really do everything they can to look attractive and keep trim and look wonderful. But they don't go in for all these fillers. They don't go for these horsey veneers. They don't go for these plumped up lips. They don't go for their face stretched back to the back of their head so they look like they're in a permanent wind tunnel. They don't go for that, and they still look beautiful. And when they smile, it looks like a real person, a real woman with a warm heart and laughing eyes. It's just so ugly. And I can't understand how Hollywood people can't see that it's ugly. It just they look deformed. They look grotesque. Honestly, that's my honest opinion. They look deformed and they look grotesque. They do. And I think it's such a pity because, anyway, getting on, end of rant about plastic surgery and fillers and veneers. And take a look at this. Now, this was Meghan running up to this Kelly McKee at the event. Now, Meghan had already had her moment in the sun. She'd already had her moment to shine on the red carpet. And poor Kelly McKee had Meghan running up to her, stealing all her light, stealing all her photograph opportunities. All her photo opportunities were all with Meghan. She didn't get any at all. She gripped onto her hand. And I don't know about you, but if you look back at that film, I really got the distinct impression that Kelly McKee couldn't wait to get away. And she was frustrated. And she was going front onto camera and sort of awkwardly still holding on to Meghan Markle's hand. But her hand was behind her. It was almost as if she was trying to hide holding on to Meghan's hand so she could get a few good solo shots that she could crop out at a later date. It was just awful. It was awful. Meghan Markle did not let her have one photograph on her own. How thirsty and desperate would you have to be? I mean, really? And then there's more, spin about that appearance, which I won't pain you with. I won't put you through it. There was this one, Meghan joking with a little boy that it was well past his bedtime, and then getting in yet again that he was a very similar age to her children, Archie and Lily, 3 and 5. Well, if that's the case, looks like you could have brought them along. You could have actually brought them along, Meghan, to the LA Children's Hospital Gala. So that is it for Spin Cycle 3. If you enjoyed it, please leave a comment down below because I do read them all. Do the like and subscribe and all the thing us YouTubers are supposed to say. But more importantly to me is that you come along next week, Monday, 9:30 p.m. It's on every Monday night. And I'd be really interested to see your take on everything that I shared tonight. See you then. Bye.